There are some common misconceptions that a lot of teachers believe about math and literacy centers. If you currently or ever have believed any of these lies, let me tell you, you're not alone. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 lies that most teachers believe about math and literacy centers and how you can change your stinking thinking so that you can finally have the math and literacy centers that you love. Stay tuned. Welcome back, Educational Rock Stars. I'm Farah from Farah Henley Education, where I strive to bring you actionable tips, strategies, and simple systems that actually work so that you can take them back into your classroom and make your teacher life easier and have a bigger impact on your students' learning. If this is your first time joining me here on the channel, be sure you hit that like and subscribe button and click that bell so that you get notified when I go live or upload a new video here on the channel. I am going to be talking about some of the biggest misconceptions and biggest lies that I know teachers believe about math and literacy centers. And see, here's the thing. I know these are lies that we believe because I believed them for a very, very long time. I remember when I first started using math and literacy centers in my classroom, I thought every single one of these. And the fact is most teachers do. So if you are currently believing them or you've believed them at any point, you are not alone. That is the first thing I want to let you know is you are not alone. But also, I believe these things, and most teachers that I talk to do until they see the truth behind what they're believing. A lot of times it's just simple little things that can completely shift your mindset. The biggest problem that I see with regard to math and literacy centers is not understanding the difference between your math and literacy centers system and your math and literacy centers activities. The system versus the activities. Oftentimes when we hear somebody say math and literacy centers, these are great for math and literacy centers. This is how I run math and literacy centers. We can't distinguish between, are they talking about the system they're using for like the rotation, or are they talking about the actual activities that they're using in their center rotations? So I want to address that first. So first off, you've got to think about your system as what you put in place in order to teach in small groups, because that's really the point of using math and literacy centers, is to be able to teach in small groups. So you have a math and literacy centers system that you put in place, and that is going to consist of your rotation system, your rotation schedule, how many centers you're going to have, how you're going to group your students, all of those things. That is going to be the system. And then on the flip side, you have the activities. Those are the actual learning games or learning activities that you put inside your centers. So the first misconception is that math and literacy centers are only for lower elementary. That could not be further from the truth. And here is the facts. Like I said, you've got to remember that there's a difference between the system and the activities. Using the system of your students rotating through centers or stations, that should be used and can be used at any grade level, K through 12. In fact, I know some teachers in high school who use centers and stations for their small group instruction. Why a lot of teachers think that centers are only for lower elementary is because oftentimes when you hear people talking about math and literacy centers, they're actually talking about the activities that go into the stations or the actual learning games that the students are going to be doing. So this is where you have to kind of flip things over a little bit and understand that making your centers work for upper grades, upper elementary, junior high, high school, is all about the activities you put them in. Or put in them. It's not about the actual system that you use. The system can be the very system that a kindergarten teacher uses. You can use that in 12th grade as with your seniors. It does not matter. The activities is what makes it appropriate for the particular grade level. I can tell you when I taught 5th grade, this was something that I ran up against. I went into 5th grade, I was teaching ELA, and I already knew that I wanted to use centers in both, I wasn't teaching math that year, but I wanted to use centers for my small group reading instruction. And I remember talking to the other teachers, and we were when we were doing some PLCs and we were talking about things, and I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to do that in my centers. And I got this like deer in a headlight look of, you're going to use centers with your fifth graders? And I was like, yes, I'm going to use centers with my fifth graders. Why wouldn't I? And they're like, because they're fifth graders, they're not first graders. And I was totally, my mind was totally blown away that these teachers thought that I couldn't use centers in fifth grade. Now, back up a little bit. It did put a little bit of, I guess, I want maybe fear, or maybe I started second guessing myself. Were my fifth graders going to be okay with this? Were they going to hate it? Were they going to think, oh my gosh, this is babyish? Because I was moving to fifth grade from first grade. So I thought maybe they're not going to like it. But let me tell you, my fifth graders absolutely loved them. My third graders did. My fourth graders did. My fifth graders did. They loved them. And I remember the first time I actually when I was introducing them to my fifth graders, and my fifth graders were like, oh my gosh, I remember doing these in first grade. These were so much fun. And my fifth graders were so engaged during small group instruction. I was able to do differentiated instruction with their reading, which that particular year we had reading levels all over the place. So we were reading different novels with each group, because some groups couldn't do some of the novels that were expected to be done in fifth grade. And it gave me the opportunity to really hone in on some of those skills that they were missing, which was affecting their reading. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't doing small group instruction and running literacy centers. Misconception number 2: math and literacy centers take too much time to prep and too much time to maintain. Listen, this can be a problem if you don't have the right system in place. And if you are using activities that are so complicated and require so much setup that it takes more time to set them up than it did for you to plan your centers. This is why I teach in my programs that you've got to have centers that follow predictable patterns, not only for your students, but also for you in your prepping and in your maintaining your centers. You have got to have activities that are easy for you to sit down, whip them up, get them ready, and move on. And I want you to have your time back. Nobody wants to spend hours upon hours upon hours doing all this intricate cutting and gathering all these materials and putting all this stuff together. And then you got to put it all up. Let's be real. If you have to pull out a bunch of stuff, then you got to put it all up. Or if you're like me, you end up having this massive pile on your desk by the end of the week with all this stuff that now you got to figure out where it goes. And sometimes it stays there all year. I mean, let's be real. So it's all about having the right system in place, and it's all about having the right types of activities and having a plan in place. You get things done ahead of time. And if you've got that, your centers become quick, they become easy, they're super simple to maintain, and you actually get your time back because you're not spending all your time searching, prepping, and maintaining your math and literacy centers. The next misconception, which is another one I hear all the time: my students can't work independently in small groups. You do realize that your students are no different than my students that I had in my classroom. They're no different than the students that the teacher who had them before had them. Your students are no different than any other students across the country. Now, I say that, but I understand there's different situations. All teachers deal with things like home life and emotional needs that are going on with students. And each one of our students is an individual that we do need to maintain that relationship with to really know. But when it comes to your students working independently, that has more to do with the system and the expectations that you have put into your classroom than it does with your students. I know that is some real talk there. Now, I know that might be a little hard to take. Trust me, I understand. But this often is not a student problem. It's often a teacher problem. Listen, I've been there. I had those thoughts. I remember when I was teaching kindergarten, I was teaching first grade, And I remember years that I had students and I would think, these kids are never going to be able to work independently. I don't understand it. And this was back when I was trying to figure out how to run math and literacy centers. And I thought, there is just no way I'm going to do whole group. That's the only way to teach. That's the way I've got to do it, because there's no way these kids can function in small groups without me. Because the fact of the matter is, you need to be focused on the kids that are at your table, at your teacher table. That's the whole point of running math and literacy centers, so that you can teach in small groups, and you need to be focused on them. And the problem is I see a lot of teachers that spend more time focused on what's going on in their small group or in their math and literacy centers with those students than what's going on at their teacher table. And this often has to do with the system. Honestly, if you have a system in place, that works and functions properly like it should, and you have set those expectations and you hold your students to those expectations, I promise you, whether they're in kindergarten or all the way up to seniors in high school, they can function in small groups without you. They can do it. You just have to have the right system in place. The next misconception is that centers are just busy work. What's the point? Now listen, math and literacy centers, if you are using them during your small group instruction, they are not the most important thing going on in your classroom at that time. The most important thing that's going on is the learning that is at your small group table, because that is the whole purpose of using small group instruction. You focused on what your students at your table are learning and what you're teaching them, so that you can help them to make the leaps they need to make in their education and in their learning. But that does not mean we just put busy work in math and literacy centers. We are so short on time in our classrooms. It is critical learning time that's going on in your math and literacy center activities and in those rotations. What you need to focus on is review and enrichment. I don't know about you, but I never had enough time to go back and review concepts. It was almost like, okay, you're teaching fractions. You get exactly 2 weeks to teach fractions, and then you need to figure out when you're going to review this. And sometimes, especially before I started using math and literacy centers, we were reviewing it like the week before the test. That is not the way things should be happening. You need to have that constant spiral review going on, and the best place for it to happen is in your math and literacy centers, because it is learning time where they can be reviewing those concepts that you don't have time to go back and review. It is also the best place to use enrichment activities, especially if you have students who have already mastered activities and you need to push them a little further. Math and literacy centers are easy to differentiate, very easy to differentiate with the right system. I understand that a lot of times we are, especially if you don't have the right system in place and you're like, I just need easy activities. I just need my kids to be quiet. I don't need them to interrupt me. So we fall into that trap of just putting busy work into our centers. But again, it doesn't have to be that way. If you have the right system and you have the right types of activities in your math and literacy centers, your students will be rocking and rolling, getting the review and the enrichment that they need, and you are going to be able to teach in your small groups. Now, the last misconception and the biggest lie that has come up, this is something that has just come up over the last year, and that is that math and literacy centers can't be used during virtual, hybrid, or socially distanced in-person learning. That could not be further from the truth. You just, again, have to adapt your system. But you got to have a system in place that you can actually adapt easily. And if you're using a complicated system that is only going to work one way, that you can't adapt, or you don't have a place to go to get activities so that you can adapt when you're going back and forth from virtual to hybrid to in-person, and then now you're out virtual again, and you don't set your students up for success and learning how the different activities that they might see, or you're trying to use too many different type of activities, that's when it becomes next to impossible to keep up with it, and it becomes a bigger headache than you have the time or energy to deal with. It's absolutely possible that you can do small group instruction and use math and literacy centers even during virtual, hybrid, or socially distanced in-person learning. Now that we have busted these myths and lies wide open, are you ready to finally take your math and literacy centers to the next level and give your students the impact in their learning that they deserve, and take back your time and finally be able to enjoy small group instruction again. I am so excited that over the next few weeks, I'm going to be sharing with you some stories from teachers who have done exactly what I've been talking about. I can't wait to share their stories with you and show you the success that they have had, because you're not going to want to miss any of these interviews. I'm super excited to share them with you, and they are going to be sharing exactly how much of a transformation their small group instruction had by just changing their mindset about these big misconceptions that they had when they went into math and literacy centers in their classroom. If you're looking for more tips, strategies, and simple systems that actually work to take back into your classroom to make your teacher life easier, check out the videos on your screen. Thanks for watching, and keep being an educational rock star.